See, there's movies that aren't horror films, but there's a movie called Earthling, I think it is, with Joaquin Phoenix providing the narration, and it's about animal cruelty. And I had to watch that, I think, in 3 sections or 4 sections. Couldn't make it through. I don't know, that's classed as a horror film. It's a documentary about animal cruelty. And you know my views on eating meat. I think, animals eat animals. We eat animals. I don't think it's bad to eat meat. If it's farmed right, if it's local farming and I'm supporting the farming community, I'm all for it. That's how families survive for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and animals eat animals. But animal cruelty is a different one. When animals are kept in confined spaces with no happiness, having the stuff that I saw in Earthling, I believe it's called Earthling. That was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. So much so that I had to turn it off 3 times. But yeah, as far as horror films, I don't think you can take me hard enough and dry enough and unlubricated enough for a horror film, because I'm in. I want to be horrified, and 9 times out of 10, I'm not. I'm disappointed by how squeamish horror directors are for the most part. So horror films only do what it says on the tin. Same as aggressive music. I like aggressive music that goes beyond what's palatable to the average listener of aggressive music. I like music that takes it into a fucking dark, vicious place based on their experiences or the things that they want to say. It's not just aggression for the sake of it, because aggression's in. I like bands that are unapologetically themselves. And there's a lot of bands, I won't go into it, but maybe do a podcast on my favourite aggressive music. So yeah, I think, if you're going to rock, you can't rock hard enough. And if you're going to be horror, you can't horrify enough. But I'd say Martyrs is up there. The next question is from someone who doesn't have a name. I'm sure they've got a name in real life, but they haven't written it down here. Please let me know who you are, because I like you all and I want to know who you are. Hi Ginger, a question for you, maybe for the next episode. I've seen you play many, many times. Thank you, whoever you are. Over the years with many different guitars, but I don't think I've ever seen you play a Strat. Do you not like them? Not true. I used to play a Strat all the time. In the Choir Boys, I always played a Strat. I think I told you the story. I played a Strat, and it was the first time that we were getting reviewed. And I jumped up in the air, and the strap broke. And so I thought, how am I going to style this out? So I smashed my guitar. And it did get a mention in the review, but I wrecked my Strat. I played a lot in the first solo bands. I played a silver Strat all the time. I'm forgetting what band it was. Was it the Sonic Circus? Maybe not. Maybe it was the one after that with Jace Edwards and Connie. But I played a Strat all the time. I've got this silver Strat that is fucking awesome. I give it to my son Taylor, so it no longer belongs to me. But I do like Strats, but I don't play them very well. I think you've got to be a Strat player to play Strats well, because it's where the bridge is. I like to, really wreck the fucking bridge when I'm playing rhythm. It just makes it tighter for me. I like to really feel the pick on the strings and the tension near the bridge, where the Strat, the bridge is almost in the middle of the body of the guitar. So I struggle to play rhythm on a Strat. I like playing lead on a Strat, and I've used them tons of times in the studio. Great. Nothing sounds like a Strat more than a Strat. Fender are great at that. They really do make guitars that sound like, if you want to sound a Telecaster, you cannot use anything other than a Telecaster. A lot of Fender guitars are like that. Jaguar. I'm planning on featuring my son's Jaguar on the next album a lot, because I want to get a more of an indie sound and less of a kind of metal sound. But yeah, I love Strats. They're not my body shape, but I love the look of them. I love playing, Connie, fucking hell. Connie plays Strats like I cook steak. Yes, I like Strats, but they're not my body shape. I prefer the tension when I'm close to the bridge, and I like the bridge to be where my arm goes straight. I don't like to bend my arm when I'm playing rhythm. Carly asks, I love the Cheers theme tune that you covered. Is there another song that you'd love to cover that haven't yet? There's fucking loads of them. I have this little list. I'm a listomaniac, and I do tend to make lots and lots of lists. I've got a list of all the songs I'd like to cover, and there's a lot of fucking weird stuff on there, which is one of the main reasons why I like to record cover versions as B-sides, because I don't want to do songs that you probably heard before. I like them to feel for the listener like it's a brand new song. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than gifting the gift of music. I think music should be passed on, and I love playing cover versions of songs that you're not familiar with. There's tons of songs that I haven't covered. One of them I really would like to do is A Little Respect by Erasure, but done in the style of Born Again. Now, Born Again are the ABBA tribute band, but they covered Erasure's A Little Respect. Now, I liked Erasure's version, but the Born Again stroke ABBA version is way superior, and I'd like to do their version, a rock version of their version. But yeah, there's tons of great songs I'd like to cover. The Cheers theme tune, by the way, before I take any credit for my taste in cover versions, was John Poole's idea, and he'd already done his version of it. It didn't have the taxi intro and stuff like that, but all John Poole's idea. And this guy is literally a pool of ideas. I hope Phil cuts that little joke out. The Seas, which I now know is pronounced the Seas, Ceys. What is the Seas? Is that a band, or is it just what you call yourself? Neither me nor producer Phil know the answer to that one. The Seas, tell me who the fuck you are. The White Album. Why is this album not big, like big? Please talk about the writing inspiration and recording process for this masterpiece. Well, it's not big because there's certain protocol you have to follow to be successful in this business, and it involves a lot of courting of the press, courting of record executives, shaking and faking, and put yourself out there to be commercially acceptable. It was a time where the Wild Arts was really struggling, and I was just working double time, triple time to make that work. I had no commercial concerns at all. I just wanted to get this fucking album finished. And it was a case of just trying to persuade people to do it, persuade people to do everything involved, whether it was every level of that album, from the fucking artwork to everything. It was hard work from start to finish. So the last thing on my mind was how it's going to sell, how it's going to be received. I just wanted to finish the fucking album. And I think that's been a lot of the time, unless you've got the business behind you, unless you've got the whole machine behind you, commercialism is pretty much impossible, because you can't just do it by virtue of being good. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any shit bands who are famous, and have tons of bands that are way more superior succeeding. And most of my favourite bands haven't really been huge successes. And I consider Ramones to be a success, but Ramones don't consider themselves to be a success. So that's been part of my upbringing with music anyway. And I still don't write and record albums with a commercial concern at all. So I think the reason why it wasn't really big is because it was impossible. The machine didn't give a fuck about the Wild Arts at the time. To a certain degree, the Wild Arts really didn't all give a collective shit about the Wild Arts at the time. It was just like, just get it done and then go home. So yeah, I think it wasn't really, I mean, you could say that about a lot of my albums, but about a lot of my favourite albums as well, is that they haven't been commercial successes because that wasn't really part of the agenda when they made the album. So I think, yeah, to be a big commercial success, or a big commercial success, as the Seas put it, I think that you have to put yourself in a position where you want to be commercially successful. And I think conversely, that means that you're not in a position where you want to make a great album. You want to make a successful album. So the music tends to suffer. The quality tends to suffer. Certainly the quality of the songs tends to suffer, because as we established earlier on, as the business is concerned, a great album has to have a load of shit in it for the good stuff to pop out. I've never made an album that I wanted any shit on it, so I'll probably make uncommercial albums, regardless of how good they are. They're just not really, they're not focused on anything other than the album being great and getting finished. And, as musicians know, everyone's good at starting something. So the start of the album, everyone's gung-ho, this is fucking great, we're a team. And then as it gets closer to the end, we're not such a team anymore. We'll just leave it to fucking him to finish off. And it's usually a race to the start and a limp to the finish. The reason why none of my albums are really big is because it's not really on my radar. It's not ever been part of the recording of the album. I just want to get the album to sound authentic and have integrity. Integrity, commercial success, are never usually agreeable bedfellows. I think everyone can probably agree with that. And the last question comes from Todd. What happened at Download the other year, and would you consider playing there again? Oh my God, the Download fucking pilot. Oh God, I fucking hated that. I didn't want to do it. I thought it would be awful, and and I was right. It was awful. The fucking sound was awful. It was a tail end of COVID, and they were just trying to get people back into a festival mode, and they did a fucking great job of doing it. But it wasn't like a festival. It wasn't like Download Festival, where it's fucking mayhem. And the audience is crowded in. You know, you're playing to an audience that are being forced to separate, isolate. It was a weird experience and situation just because of COVID and the restrictions and all the rest of it. But the Wild Arts weren't speaking to each other. We just got out of COVID, and, you know, there were certain members of the Wild Arts that I thought might have died before we got on fucking stage. It was just a terrible, terrible time. And I was in just an awful frame of mind I just couldn't break out of. I was there under duress because I didn't want to do it, and I thought that the Wild Arts was not in a strong enough position. We weren't healthy enough to do a great show, and we didn't do a great show. But because you're the front man and you wear all of the fucking sins of every band, it was me that was the problem, and I accept my share of the blame for that. I wasn't professional, and I didn't want to be there. You know, and I just let that get on top of me more than my position to perform and entertain the people that were there. And, you know, I saw Skindred play, and they were fantastic, so I could have made something better out of that situation than I did. But I just wanted to get off the stage. The sound was fucking dreadful. My monitor wasn't working, the guitars weren't working. The whole thing was just like shit upon shit upon shit. Before we got anywhere near the festival site, just, you know, rehearsals were fucking terrible, and just a shock to see how people had coped with COVID. And, you know, and one of the members of the Wild Arts hadn't coped with COVID very well. And that's when the history of the Wild Arts started repeating itself. And I knew from that point we were fucked. You know, it was going to go exactly the way it always went, and it did. And yeah, I had to wear the brunt of the responsibility, and I'll take that. I got big enough shoulders, as you can see. But yeah, there was a lot of things wrong at the time, and not all of which I can go into or want to. And that was our Q&A for the week. I've really enjoyed these things. I really still love your questions. I love your comments. Make sure you have lots and lots of comments, because we love reading them. Just a quick thanks again for supporting this and being with us, because we couldn't do it without you. But, you know, it seems to be having a very positive effect with people, and that's down to you. So yeah, be proud of yourself for keeping this thing going. I've been asked to do something called Band of the Week, and which is something I really look forward to doing, because at any given week or any given Friday, I'm obsessed with a new band, and I get obsessed, as I said before. But it's a healthy obsession. I think there's a difference between addiction and obsession. They're very close, but addiction tends to be bad for you. Obsessions can be good for you. This week's obsession, and it's, you know, I get obsessed over things, and I only stop being obsessed when something else takes over. I'm still obsessed with the old ones. But this week's obsession is a band called Parts and Labour, who were, they're broken up now, but they were an interchangeable three-piece from New York, and they've got a sound that's just, it reminds me of, considering they're American, they've got a very Scottish thing about their sound. It's almost like, you know, fucking a big grand Highland thing going on. And also they take the sonics to an almost distorted level. It's huge. They've got a drummer. Again, a lot of these bands really benefits, especially if you're heavy, from a great drummer. And they've got an astoundingly good drummer. But the singer's just got this really great sound that gives it this Scottish kind of feel. You know, again, maybe he is Scottish. I don't know. If anyone knows anything about Parts and Labour, please tell me, because it's hard to find anything out about this band. But I also want to suggest and recommend an album by the bands that I promote as Band of the Week. And I would say start with an album called Constant Future. Constant Future is, as it's described, a career-defining moment. Now, I don't know. They got an album before this. I'm still waiting for my vinyl to turn up of the other album, which is called Map Maker. And Map Maker, it's one of those albums that starts out so victoriously mighty that it's just impossible to dislike. But this one starts out mighty and maintains the might right until the very last moment. It's fucking almost cartoonly huge. I don't even know what songs to Pure Annihilation, all the songs. I tend to like an album because it's a great album. So this album, if you're going to get into Parts and Labour, check it out on Spotify. It'll be fucking impossible for you to dislike and quite hard for you to find. But with all of these recommendations I give you, I urge you to buy the album. Don't just listen to it on Spotify, because Spotify is a great library to go and listen to something, but, buy it if you like it. Parts and Labour, my tip for the top for this week. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you for joining us for another one of these. Thank you to producer Phil. And behind the scenes, thank you to Lynn for setting up all this stuff. And mostly, I'm sure no one would contest this, thanks to you. God bless you. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for making this possible. Love you all. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye.